Hello everybody, this is International Master Atanu and you are watching Life is Chess. Today we shall go through chess combinations of Paul Morphy, one of the greatest players in history of chess. In the year 1851, the first international chess tournament was held in London, and as we have seen in one of the previous videos, Adolf Anderson emerged as the best player in the world. 6 years later, in 1857, when India had the first war of independence against British colonialism, around that time the first national championship was held in United States of America across the Atlantic, and that tournament saw the rise of one of the young players, one of the young genius, and his name was Paul Morphy. In 1857, Morphy won the tournament in the US in New York with a wide margin, and all the games he played were absolutely gems, and he dominated the tournament throughout. So let's see some of the examples of his genius from the tournament, from the first US championship in 1857, which was held in New York. Our first example is taken from a game played between Paulsen and Morphy. Many of you might have heard the name Paulsen because it is after him the famous line, the famous opening variation in the Sicilian defense is named Paulsen variation. But here it is Paulsen white, Morphy black, black to play. I would like all of you to pause the video for some time and guess how Paul Morphy won from this position after a brilliant series of moves. Morphy played queen takes f3. He took the bishop, he sacrificed a whole queen for a bishop. The idea is after gf3, which Paulsen played, black played rook g6 check. So you can see the queen sacrifice in effect has opened this line for attack against the king, and with the tempo black has also opened the diagonal for the bishop. Here white played king h1, the only move. Black played bishop h3. The idea is not only to attack the f1 rook because black is already material down, but black threatens bishop g2 check. The white's king is cornered, it doesn't have many options. Black played rook to d1. Well, observe that rook g1 is not effective because black can simply play rook g1, king g1 and checkmate on e1, because after the only defense queen f1, black can capture on f1 and it's a checkmate. So white played rook to d1, vacating the f1 square for the king. The only other defense and the best defense in this position was queen to d3. The idea after black plays bishop g2 check, which is intended, white would play king g1, and if black plays bishop f3 checking with the rook, white has the move queen takes g6, and since black had sacrificed a queen, white would return the queen and remain an exchange up. After black recaptures, white would play d4, shutting this bishop from play, and this is a better position for white. But after queen d3, the move which was planned by Paul Morphy was f5, after which white would play queen c4 check, and once again the move king f8. If black plays king h8, white would play queen f7, attacking this rook once again. So once again, if black continues with moves like bishop check and bishop f3, white has to capture queen g6 and once again emerge and exchange up, and after d4 get an absolutely better position. So black has to be careful, and black had thought the move king f8. This was his planned move, after which it's very difficult for white to prevent bishop g2 check. Well, coming back to the game, white played the move rook to d1, black played bishop g2, white played king g1, and here bishop f3 check. White played king to f1, that is the only move and the reason why rook d1 was played. And here black saw win, and black continued with bishop g2 check. However, the move rook g2 was also very effective, with the idea of taking on h2 and, well, moving to h1, from where white cannot escape mate, and furthermore black is threatening rook f2 check with the help of this bishop. So with a dual threat on f2 and h2, it would have been winning for black. But what black played is also good. He played the move bishop g2 check, white played king g1, black played bishop h3. There was another win from here, that is bishop e4 check, and after king f1 to play bishop f5, threatening a checkmate on h3. Once again Paul Morphy played an alternative win, that is bishop to h3. After king h1 he played bishop f2 with the threat of a checkmate on g2 with both the bishops, and white had to play queen f1. After that black took the queen, and after rook e2 had an absolutely winning position. After rook a1 he played rook h6, and now he had a fresh target on h2, after which white played d4 and bishop e3. It is here that white resigned, because had white captured bishop on e3, black would not have recaptured but could have played rook h2 and the other rook to g2, checkmate. After establishing himself as the best player in the US, Paul Morphy wanted to come to Europe, but he played a series of exhibition matches in New York. In one such match, Paul Morphy played without a rook on a1. He played with one rook deficit, and he arrived in this position against an amateur. And in this particular position we can see white's queen is attacked on b3 as well as his bishop, and white is already a rook down. It's white Paul Morphy to play, and let's see how he continues his attack. Morphy played rook e1 check, black defended bishop e6, and now instead of moving his queen, Paul Morphy, just like the previous example, sacrifices his whole queen. He took the bishop, leaving his queen to be taken by the knight, and then he played check. And notice the diagonals of the bishop, just like the previous examples, it is the bishops which dominate the game. Black played king d7, the only move. White played bishop e6 check, and once again king c6, the only move. White played knight e5 check. All white's pieces are swarming in, entering the attack. Look at these three minor pieces and also the rook. Black played king b5, the only move, and this time white played bishop c4 check. Once again king b4, the only move. He played bishop b4 check, and after king a4, finally white captured the knight, and it is a checkmate. In another example, Paul Morphy finds a checkmate once again by giving up his queen. It's black to play. Can you find how Paul Morphy played. Well, Paul Morphy found a beautiful move, knight g3, and this move aims at checkmating white's king. After white captures the queen, instead of recapturing the queen, he played knight d4 e2, and look at the king, it has only one square to go, which is controlled by the knight on g3. Paul Morphy arrived in Europe in 1858. During those times, there were two centers of chess in Europe, London and Paris. First, he went to London, and there he played a beautiful game against Bird. Bird is white and Morphy is black. It is black to play. Can you find a win? Well, once again, it's a queen sacrifice. Black played a very brilliant move, and that is rook to f2. He sacrificed a whole rook. After white captured the rook, black played a stunning move, that is queen to a3. So look at this first position. From here, he visualized the queen has to land on a3, and that is why he cleared the rank for the queen by sacrificing the whole rook and placed his queen on a3 with the idea if with the idea if white captures on a3, black will take back with the bishop. It's not only a check, but it's checkmate, as the only square b1 is controlled by the rook. And after black landed on queen a3, white played pawn to c3. That is the only way to defend b2, which was threatened by the queen with the support of the rook. Look at this position. The only other move was queen to c3, but here black could have played bishop f4 check, and after rook d2, that is the only way to defend, because if black plays bishop e3, if white plays bishop e3, black could simply capture the bishop, or if white moves the queen to b1, the pawn on b2 would be pinned by the rook, and black would make use of the opportunity to capture the queen. That is why in this position queen c3 is not possible. White had to play pawn c3, defending b2 with the queen. And now Morphy captured the a2 pawn with the idea of playing a check on a1, and when the white king moves to b2, he would capture the b2 with the help of rook and deliver a checkmate. White had to play pawn to b4. And now black played queen a1 check, king c2, queen a4 check. White went king to b2. White is one rook up, and he tried to somehow escape from the checks, but there was a better move which white missed in the game, and that was king to c1. But here black would play bishop to f5, and apart from repeating the position with queen to a1, black also has an option of playing bishop to f5 with the idea of pushing the pawn and including the bishop in the attack along with the queen, and of course the rook as well as this bishop. So this position is clearly better for black. Well, let's go back a bit. Yeah, here white played king b2 and black captured on b4. As we said, for white the better option would have been to go back to king c1, but here he went king b2, and after bishop b4, white took cb4, black took with the rook, and as you can imagine, black had sacrificed a whole rook at the start of the position, Now he has sacrificed another bishop, but the rook and queen combine very well and deliver a checkmate. If white plays king to b3, black could checkmate in one move. If white went back king c1, black could play queen a1 check, king b2 and queen b2 checkmate. So either way there was a checkmate, so white had to give up his queen, and finally in this position black played another good move, vacating this diagonal by pushing the pawn. After white takes bishop e3, he played bishop f5 check. Here if white goes back king c1, there is a mate in 1 by queen c3, and after rook d3, black played queen c4. After king d2, white counts on the fact that after giving away his exchange he is still materially ahead, so he can still manage to win the game. But after king d2, black played queen a2 check, king d1, queen b1 check, and notice if the king goes to d2, black can capture on h1, or if the bishop intercepts, black could capture the rook. So in this position, in this hopeless position, white decided to give up. From London, Paul Morphy decided to travel to Paris, the other center of chess in Europe in those times, and this position is taken from a game which he played against Delanoë in Paris 1858. It's black to play, white is one pawn up, and he is trying to simplify some of the pieces, he is trying to exchange some of the pieces. The rook on e2 and the bishop on c7 are offered for exchange. It's black to play. How does black continue his attack? Well, instead of protecting the c7 bishop or exchanging, black prefers to activate the rook on f8. White captured the bishop on c7. White is one piece up. Earlier he was a pawn up, but after that black exchanged the rook and played a brilliant move, that is rook e2 check. After sacrificing a bishop, he sacrifices a rook, and if the king moves, of course there is a checkmate in 1 with the help of queen. So white had to accept the sacrifice, after which queen g2 check, and notice the combination of this bishop and this queen. It's a deadly combination. White played king e1. After queen g2 check, white played king to d2. Had he come to e2, black would have played bishop h5 checkmate. So the only move is king d2, after which queen f2, king d1, and once again bishop h5 checkmate. Our final example is taken from a game which Morphy played against Adolf Anderssen. Remember that Adolf Anderssen had won the first international tournament in 1851 and was considered to be the best player of the world. Accidentally, Adolf Anderssen was in Paris when Morphy was there, and they played a match which was won convincingly by Paul Morphy. After losing the match, Adolf Anderssen very gracefully accepted his defeat and said he has never met a chess player as strong as Paul Morphy. So this game is taken from, this example is taken from the match. It is Morphy white, Anderssen black, and Morphy continues his devastating attack. He played queen h5 check, sacrificing his knight, and the way this game was played reminds us of the attacking games which Adolf Anderssen himself played, the evergreen game or the immortal game. This game is very similar to that. Morphy played f e3, opening the F line for the rook to attack the opponent king, after which Adolf Anderson played knight c2 check. After king e2, he decided to take the rook, and despite being materially down, Paul Morphy conducts his attack with precision. He played check, king e7, queen e5 check. The only move, once again, king f7. After bishop e6 check, once again the only move, king to c6. Of course, he could have played king to e7, but that would allow a checkmate in one move after rook f7. And after bishop e6, he did play king c6, and then Morphy played rook c1 check. After king b6, Paul Morphy checkmated his legendary opponent by queen b5. After this game, Paul Morphy went back to the United States, having defeated all the good players in Europe. Unfortunately, he did not have many strong opponents in the US, and he soon lost interest in chess. He did play some blindfold, some simultaneous exhibition matches, but he lost interest in chess, and one of the greatest talents in history of chess was lost from the world of chess very soon.